Earlier this week, Israeli Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, decided to visit the Temple Mount in Jerusalem as it was a special fasting day in Judaism that commemorates the destruction of the temple.
The ground beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount is considered the most sacred and volatile real estate on the planet. To put it mildly, digging there is forbidden. But a groundbreaking new technology has just changed the rules of the game. Using a sophisticated AI, researchers were able to scan the entire 37-acre site, effectively taking an X-ray of history itself. The results started coming in, and at first they seemed normal. Then one image appeared on the screen that made everyone's blood run cold. It was a structure that shouldn't exist, a discovery that shocked them all. Ground that cannot be touched. During a construction project on the mount, tons and tons of earth were unceremoniously scooped up by heavy machinery and dumped in the nearby Kidron Valley. It was a heartbreaking moment for archaeologists. This wasn't just dirt, it was a time capsule containing fragments from thousands of years of history. Coins, pottery, and perhaps even relics from the temple itself were now mixed in with modern trash, seemingly lost for good. It was a potential treasure trove, treated like garbage. This act, however, led to an unprecedented rescue mission. In 2004, archaeologists Gabriel Barkay and Zaki Devira started the Temple Mount Sifting project. Their idea was simple but brilliant. If they couldn't go to the mountain, they would bring the mountain to them. They set up an outdoor sifting station and, with the help of over 200,000 volunteers from all over the world, began the painstaking process of sifting through every single bucket of that discarded earth. It was an incredible sight. School children, tourists, and locals all worked side by side, washing away the dust to find glimpses of the past. And the discoveries were mind-blowing. Over 500,000 artifacts were recovered. These weren't just random stones, they were pieces of a giant historical puzzle. They found pottery from the time of King David, arrowheads from the Babylonian conquest, and coins minted during the Great Jewish Revolt against Rome. They even found a clay seal bearing the name of a priestly family mentioned in the book of Jeremiah. Each find was a whisper from the past, a tangible link to the biblical stories that unfolded on that very spot. Many people are crazy about these small discoveries, but the Sifting project also highlighted a bigger truth. The ground itself was a historical record. What it couldn't tell them, however, was how these pieces fit together. They had the puzzle pieces, but not the picture on the box. The layers of history, the context, were gone. They knew what was in the soil, but the biggest mysteries, the layout of the original temples, the location of the Holy of Holies, and what hidden chambers might lie beneath, remained completely unknown.
It's called the Temple Mount Sifting Project, where they sift through the material, looking through literally every single bag of dirt.
The project proved that incredible history was buried there, but it also proved the limits of what could be learned from displaced Earth. It was a monumental achievement, but it only made the desire to see beneath the untouched surface even stronger. For decades, it seemed like an impossible dream. The politics were too complicated, the risks too high. The greatest secrets of the Temple Mount would have to remain buried. But not all things are what they seem, and technology was about to provide a key to a door no one even knew existed. The Sifting project revealed the Mount's secrets, but only those torn from their home. What lay undisturbed beneath? Technology's holy quest. The thing nobody tells you about modern archaeology is that some of its biggest breakthroughs are happening without a single shovel touching the ground. Between 2022 and 2024, a secretive international consortium of archaeologists, engineers, and data scientists decided to attempt the impossible. Their plan was audacious: to create a complete three-dimensional map of the subsurface of the Temple Mount using technology that was once the stuff of science fiction. They couldn't dig, so they would use light and algorithms to see through solid rock. The core of their operation was a technology called muon tomography. Muons are subatomic particles created when cosmic rays hit the Earth's atmosphere. They rain down on us constantly, and here's the amazing part: they can pass through hundreds of feet of stone. By setting up highly sensitive detectors around the Temple Mount, the team could track the paths of these muons. When a muon passes through empty space, it keeps a straight path. But when it passes through dense material like rock, its path is slightly deflected. By measuring the trajectories of billions upon billions of these particles over many months, you can create a high-resolution image of what's inside a structure, whether it's a pyramid or a holy mountain. It's like giving the planet a CAT scan. However, the data from muon detectors is incredibly complex. It's a chaotic storm of information that would take humans decades to sort through. That's where the artificial intelligence came in. The team developed a proprietary AI, codenamed Solomon, specifically for this project. This AI was designed to do one thing: turn the muon data into a clear, understandable map. It could distinguish between bedrock, man-made walls, soil, and, most importantly, empty spaces. The team fed the AI every known historical map of Jerusalem, every ancient text describing the temple, and all the data from previous, less advanced, ground-penetrating radar scans. The AI learned to recognize the architectural styles of different eras, from the massive stones of Herod's time to the delicate arches of the Umayyad period. It was, in essence, a digital archaeologist with a brain that could process 1,000 years of history in a single second. The project was conducted in near-total secrecy. Small, discrete detectors were placed in surrounding buildings and existing tunnels, disguised as environmental sensors or maintenance equipment. For 2 years, the AI churned through the data, slowly building its picture of the world below. The initial results were fascinating, but not world-shattering. The AI mapped out a vast network of cisterns and aqueducts, confirming what many historians already suspected. It traced the foundations of the Antonia fortress and the massive retaining walls built by King Herod. It was a remarkable achievement, confirming the accuracy of the technology. The team watched as a ghost of ancient Jerusalem materialized on their screens, but they were looking for something more, a true anomaly that defied explanation. Then, on a Tuesday morning, the AI flagged something. Deep beneath the southern end of the platform, about 80 feet down and embedded in solid bedrock, was a void. It wasn't a natural cave or a known cistern. It was a man-made structure, geometrically perfect and completely isolated from any known tunnel or passageway. It had been sealed for an unimaginable amount of time. The team held their breath as the AI worked to sharpen the image, feeding it more and more data. What it slowly revealed was something that shouldn't have been there. The AI found a sealed void, but what was hidden inside this impossible, forgotten space? A discovery beyond belief. The air in the control room was thick with tension. On the main screen, the AI was rendering the final high-resolution image of the anomaly. What emerged from the digital noise left every single scientist breathless. It wasn't a storage room or a collapsed tunnel. Deep in the bedrock was a perfectly circular chamber, approximately 20 feet in diameter. Its walls were smooth and its shape was too precise to be anything but man-made. The muon scan was so sensitive it could even detect the presence of objects inside. And this chamber was not empty. At its very center stood what looked like a large square stone pedestal, and resting on it were several smaller objects, but the most shocking detail was something else entirely. The entrance to the chamber had been sealed from the outside with massive, perfectly fitted stone blocks. There was no mortar, just incredible craftsmanship. This chamber wasn't just old, it was designed to be hidden and never opened again. The AI began to cross-reference the chamber's features with its vast database of historical architecture. The construction style didn't match Roman, Greek, or later Islamic periods. The AI kept digging deeper into the past, searching for a match. Finally, it found one. The type of stone cutting and the method of sealing the entrance were consistent with only one period in Jerusalem's history, the late 10th to early 9th century BCE. This was the era of King Solomon and the building of the first temple. A wave of disbelief washed over the room. They weren't just looking at a hidden room, they were potentially looking at a chamber that had been sealed for nearly 3,000 years, a silent witness to the golden age of the Israelite kingdom. Using advanced signal processing, the team tried to get a clearer picture of the objects inside. The resolution was just enough to make out their shapes. On the central pedestal, there appeared to be a set of oil lamps, a small chest or box, and several scroll jars made of clay, hauntingly similar to those that held the Dead Sea Scrolls. These weren't the possessions of common people. The location, the age, and the contents all pointed to one terrifying possibility. This was a sacred chamber, a place for storing holy items. What could have been so important that it needed to be sealed away in the very foundations of the Temple Mount, hidden even from the generations of priests who walked above? Many theories began to fly around the lab. Was this a secret Geniza, a storage place for worn-out sacred texts? Or was it something more? What many overlooked at first was a faint detail on the chamber wall. The muon scan had picked up subtle differences in density on the stone surface, patterns that looked like carvings. The AI went to work again, enhancing the faint patterns. Slowly, letters began to appear. They were not in the familiar square script of modern Hebrew. They were angular, ancient characters. It was Paleo-Hebrew, the script used during the First Temple period. A linguist on the team was brought in, his hands shaking as he transcribed the letters from the screen. The inscription was short, a fragment of a sentence, but its words sent a shockwave through the scientific community. The inscription spoke of consecrated offerings and the divine presence. These were terms specifically associated with the temple's most sacred rituals. This chamber wasn't just near the temple, it was an integral part of it. It was a holy place, hidden from the world before the Babylonians even reached the gates of Jerusalem. The team had found a first temple chamber with artifacts and an inscription, but its contents hinted at an even greater mystery: the echo of Solomon's temple. The discovery of the sealed chamber changed everything. To put it mildly, the scientific and historical communities were thrown into an uproar. This wasn't a theory or an interpretation of an ancient text. It was hard data, a digital ghost of a structure that had been waiting patiently in the dark. The core message of the find was undeniable. A piece of the First Temple period had survived, perfectly preserved. But what was it? The presence of scroll jars and what looked like a chest immediately brought to mind the most legendary lost artifact in history, the Ark of the Covenant. Could this chamber have been created to protect the Ark before the impending Babylonian invasion in 586 BCE? It's a tantalizing idea, but one that remains pure speculation until the chamber can be physically entered, a prospect that is still politically impossible. But many experts are focusing on something even more profound than a single artifact. The location of the chamber itself is the biggest clue. It lies deep beneath the area where most scholars believe the Holy of Holies, the innermost sanctuary of the temple, once stood. The inscription mentioning divine presence strengthens this connection. The chamber might not have held the ark itself, but it could have been a sacristy, a treasury, or a private chamber for the high priest, directly connected to the most sacred spot on earth. It proves that the First Temple was not just a building, but a complex with deep hidden foundations and secret rooms that history never recorded. This is a wow factor of the highest order. For centuries, the only evidence for Solomon's temple came from the Bible. Skeptics often dismissed it as a myth, a story of faith with no archaeological proof. But now, the stones themselves are speaking, and their story aligns with the ancient scriptures. People watching this might be wondering if all this is really true. Could a discovery of this magnitude happen overnight without the world knowing? The thing is, the consortium that ran the project is moving with extreme caution. Releasing this information could destabilize an already fragile region. Are we missing a key detail? Perhaps. The full dataset has only been shared with a handful of trusted academic institutions, but the preliminary findings are clear and have been peer-reviewed. We are looking at the first ever direct archaeological evidence of a sacred space from the time of the First Temple, found exactly where it was said to be. This discovery changes our understanding of the past, but what happens when the world demands we open that sealed door? If you were in charge, would you risk it? Let us know below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.